As our invaders and their supporters prepare to march for amnesty later this week, we decided to take a look at one of the darkest consequences of massive immigration, illegal and legal: slavery. As you watch this, people are being transported into this country to be used as slaves. In fact, it is believed that upwards of 15,000 people a year are trafficked to be held in slavery. Some will be forced into prostitution. Others will be used as domestics and raped. Still others will be locked into workplaces and forced to work for little or no pay. Is this an isolated thing, or is it happening all across America? California. A young Thai girl forced to work at her owner's restaurant, take care of his home, and serve him on her knees. Florida. A 12-year-old Haitian girl forced to be a household servant and sexual slave. Utah. Dozens of illegal aliens smuggled in by a local contractor and forced to work off their debt to him. Texas. A human smuggler held as many as 120 women captive, forcing them into prostitution, raping them, and forcing them to have abortions. Not exactly what we expect or want in the land of the free, is it? So how do we fix the problem? Well, the first step is always to identify the problem, honestly. And that leads us to a niggling detail you'll have a hard time finding in any of the news stories we've mentioned. Each of the slaveholders was an immigrant, most often a legal one, keeping one or more illegal aliens in slavery. But as usual, our shoot-from-the-hip media somehow managed to keep that particular bullet in the chamber. Another story was about two women who kept a teenage Haitian girl as a slave. We couldn't find one American newspaper that saw fit to mention that the women themselves were immigrants. We found that detail in a Jamaican paper. Instead of divulging that detail, American reporters threw up the usual journalistic smokescreen, referring to them as two Florida women, mom-daughter pair, or our favorite, Miami area residents. True? Yes. Honest? Not even close. And don't you think a little honesty is in order when it comes to informing the American people about the slavery that we're importing in the name of diversity? Because isn't that what we're doing by importing immigrants from cultures that have no problem with slavery in such record numbers that the practice isn't being assimilated out of them? Diversity has become a goddess at whose feet we're commanded to worship by the self-appointed ministers of political correctness. But what about the illegal aliens who are suffering in slavery in America because we're bullied to celebrate diversity without reservation, without question, and without honesty? What about the reemergence of slavery in our nation of freedom? Do you really want to celebrate that in your classrooms? Do you really want to celebrate that in your country? Do you really want to celebrate that in your neighborhood? The victim, Stephen Hand of Lantana, Florida. The accused, Elmer Lopez Ramirez, 36, an illegal alien from Mexico. The charges, felony attempted murder and aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. The story. Last week, Hand spotted Ramirez stealing gas by siphoning it out of a parked car. He yelled that he was going to call the police and then drove on. Waiting at a red light a couple of blocks down the road, a car pulled up next to his, and Ramirez exited the vehicle, brandishing a weapon. Hand's arm, which he instinctively held up in self-defense, was nearly severed as Ramirez attacked him with a machete. Now in this segment, it's important to us that we verify the immigration status of every criminal we cover. When we say a crime is 100% preventable, we want you to be able to take that to the bank. The single news report on this crime never mentioned Ramirez's legal status. Please try to contain your shock. And we want you to know just how hard it was to get this information. Our producer Jake had to make 2 phone calls to the West Palm Beach Police Department, who reported that Ramirez was indeed an illegal alien who self-identified as a Mexican national at booking, and that he was in possession of a valid Florida driver's license. It took Jake 20 minutes. Note to any journalists who might be watching, this is called reporting, and you might want to give it a whirl sometime. Of course, if our government had been doing its job, getting and keeping illegal aliens out of our country, Elmer Lopez Ramirez wouldn't have been here to viciously attack Stephen Hand with a machete. And that makes this crime what? 100% preventable. The victim, Tina Davila, 39, a Texas mother of 5. The accused, Timoteo Rios, 24, an illegal alien from Mexico. The charge, capital murder. The story. On April 16th, Tina Davila pulled up outside a Harris County, Texas store to pay her mobile phone bill. Stepping out of her car, she was accosted by Rios, who tried to get her car keys. When she fought back, trying to protect her 4-month-old daughter who was in the back seat, Rios stabbed her repeatedly, then fled the scene with an accomplice. Davila was rushed to the hospital, where she died from the stab wounds. The whole thing was caught on the store's surveillance tape, and it wasn't the only time. Police say that the pair was on a crime spree, and they have more video to prove it. As a matter of fact, the car they sped off in was one they had stolen from a previous carjacking victim. The driver, Kennedy Escoto, 17, is in police custody and has identified Rios as Davila's killer. Also an illegal alien, Escoto's appearance was postponed for medical reasons. He has tuberculosis. Rios is still at large, and police suspect that he may have fled to Mexico. So how was Tina Davila's murder 100% preventable? Let me count the ways. 1. Rios was in the country illegally in the first place. 2. Rios was incarcerated twice last year for charges including drugs, mischief, and giving a false name. And 3. Rios was identified as an illegal alien while in custody. ICE failed to place an immigration hold on the scumbag, so he was released back onto our streets. Of course, if our government, on any level and at any point in time, had been doing its job, getting and keeping illegal aliens out of our country, Timoteo Rios wouldn't have been here to stab Tina Davila to death because she refused to hand over her car with her 4-month-old daughter inside. And that makes this crime what? 100% preventable. This Thursday, our invaders and their traitorous American pals will once again take to our streets to demand amnesty. How do we know that they'll be demanding anything? We've been reading their many communist-inspired flyers. That's how. An amnesty may top the list of demands, but it's far from lonely. Let's take a peek, shall we? Here's their first list of demands. And as if that isn't infuriating enough, they made a second list. Sound more than a bit like socialism and communism to you? Well, we've covered these marches for several years, and we can let you in on a little secret that the media will never show you. It is. Just look at the day they've chosen to make their own. Mayday, in contemporary America, an anarchist, socialist, communist remembrance of the 1886 Haymarket riot, right here in Chicago. They say Mayday. We say Mayday! As in a distress call from America. As our invaders prepare to fill our streets yet again to demand what they haven't earned, will you answer the call and stand up for America? Thanks for clicking in to this week's episode of the Blogs4Borders video blog burst. Before we say goodbye this week, we'd like to share some viewer comments with you. Maximus Vergonius left this gem under the February 18th show. Please give me money. Me too. I am a patriot against immigration. Bald, stupid bitch using the same snake oil to gain profit out of immigration. If anyone thinks that we're in this to get rich, not that we're against getting rich, capitalists that we are, trust us, this isn't the way to do it. Sure, we ask for help. It does cost money to do what we do. But we do it because we think it needs to be done. We do it because the media won't. We do it for people like you and people like Connie, who left this comment on our blog. I look forward to Blogs for Borders email. It's one of the very few avenues for the truth of what is happening to our country. My husband is a concrete finisher, and he is Hispanic. We have watched his wages go from $27 an hour down to $13 in less than 10 years. He tells me all trades are overrun by illegals now, and it's not improving at all here in Denver, Colorado. Thanks for all your good work. Thank you, Connie. You made our week. That's why we make this show. And that's why we ask you to click the Support Blogs for Borders button at freedomfolks.com so we can keep doing it. So until next week, be vigilant, be vocal, and be unrelenting. We've got a country to save.